Bonjour et bienvenue au French Tech Podcast. I'm Nikolai and this is Thibaut.
Hey guys.
Another brown bag session and our very first video recorded brown bag session is going live to YouTube. So that's a new one.
Yeah.
What are we going to talk about today, Thibaut? We're going to pick up where we left last week. We're going to talk a little bit about what it means to find your target audience, solve their problem, and we're going to talk branding, right?
Yeah. So I think both you and I had some conversations
Yeah.
about that last week with startups, and in the discussions that I had, I heard many of them saying, "Well, I want to do branding," and when I was trying to investigate what that meant, like I want to do advertising, I want people to know my name and my logo and know what I'm about, and so I thought about what is this really the right thing to do when you're a startup, and I don't think it is. I think you have similar on your side. You had similar conversations, so
Yeah, that's
I thought it would
interesting.
be an interesting topic to talk about. So yeah, I as I see it, I think the so branding is important. Whether you're a big giant like Coca-Cola or a startup, but the thing is, when you're a startup, you obviously have to start differently, and it's a very, very bad idea, obviously, to start with the importance of your logo and putting it out there in front of somebody who probably doesn't care, and doesn't know you anyway.
I'm laughing because everybody spends their time on that. Like 80% of the people spend the first couple of weeks on their logo, on their company name, on the name for their website. Hold on, right? The URL, right? And they run in circles.
Probably running some SEO studies and keyword research to know what the domain name they should choose. But when you're a startup, nobody cares, right? You don't exist. You're just a baby. So I think these things really don't matter at first.
Well, and hold on, you say you're just a baby, but that's a good thing, actually, right? Because it means you have all the opportunity. You have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Like when you're a big company, so when you're a Pepsi Cola, right?
Yeah.
You have something to lose.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
have a giant brand.
Yeah. And so that's where this is why, as a giant, you need to do branding and pure branding. So investing millions and billions in your brand, just brand, so that people, constantly remember your brand, and that hey, I didn't buy any Pepsi today. My life is fucked, right? So I guess for startups, the thinking to me was in the first, especially if you just starting out and you're a team of like 3, 4, 5 people. In the first place, branding to me is just like the founder's value, and you just put a name and logo for the company. And that's the only thing you need in the first place. And the challenge here is to make sure that everybody in the team knows what they're here for, why they are doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is, I guess, is once you have a few customers in a way, and when I say a few, it's like, I don't know, 4 or 5 customers, the question, the branding discussion is how do you translate these values onto the customers, so you can have operations and customer support, and so all of these things, all of these touch points with the customers, it's a way for you as a startup to project your values onto the customers so that they understand.
So hold on, let's bring it back. First of all, logo, right? Company name. Don't spend time on it, right? There's websites.
Don't do it.
There's websites that generate names. There's websites that generate logos that are better than the average poorly paid designer and the poorly paid guy that comes up with company names, right?
And all of the big startups that Airbnb, and they all changed their logo pretty late, right? So if you want to change your logo, even if you're like a huge startup already, a huge scale-up, you can do it anyway. So logo and name, it doesn't really matter. Airbnb, they changed their logo very late. They changed the name as well. So don't waste time on that.
And I really like what you said about the brand initially being about the values of the founding team. Because the way I see it, okay, so when you're starting out a company, right, and that's one of the things we talked about last week when it comes to good content marketing, right? You're putting out content that provides value, that solves a problem for your target audience. I think that brand emerges when the company's values, the values of the founding team, meet the market, meet the problem that they're solving.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and so that's why it's all about alignment.
Right.
And that's why branding is important, because if you do branding properly, it means that the customers can identify with you and align with
Yeah.
you, and they want to buy from you because the way you talk about the problem you're solving with this branding, it resonates with them. So that's, they believe that you understand their problem better than, somebody who doesn't do any branding and just, pushes you like, I have a product that does, X, Y, and Z. So I think that's why, branding, that's why it is critical. And because it's critical, you have to start early, and you have to. It's something that you discover. You're going to find out your branding, but you have time.
Yeah, you discover it. You discover it. That's a great way of putting it. You discover your brand. Yeah,
and which is, it's kind of the conversations that you had this week or
this week.
Week?
So I gave this presentation at Founded here in Singapore in a co-working space on finding your podcasting voice. But actually, it was more or less also a conversation about content marketing and about finding your voice as a startup and as a product and finding the people whose problem you're trying to solve. And we were talking about these issues, and people were saying, okay, but how am I going to position myself as a personal brand, right? And I'm afraid of doing the wrong thing, and it's going to damage my personal brand. And our discussion was centered on the fact that you don't have a personal brand. Nobody knows you.
You don't have that to start with, and
right.
And part of your brand, and probably today the most important part of your brand, whether it's personal or corporate, is how do you cope with change and how do you deal with your own mistakes, right? So you anybody's allowed to make mistakes as long as it stays within certain boundaries. Right?
Yeah.
But as long as you don't screw up completely, obviously you're finding your way and you're finding the right voice for your brand, the right image, and the only way to find this is by producing content. So it can be, writing, it can be, but it has to be writing. There needs to be thought that goes into it. So if you write just, very light articles with no thinking at all, no differentiation, etc., obviously that doesn't work. But podcasting is a great example. But there's, you could write long form content, and like I don't know, the family in France, for instance, they do that very well. They sometimes they create really long form content, and to me that's a good way to do branding. You can identify with that or not, right? And by the way, that's a good point, because branding, you don't want to appeal to anybody, you don't want to please everybody, so you have to choose what you stand for.
Yeah.
And the purpose of branding, in a way, is to polarize the discussion with prospects, so that if you think that a prospect would not be a good customer for you, if you can filter them out with the branding that you have, so that the prospect says, the product might be what I need, but I don't know, I don't identify with this brand, so that if they walk away, obviously you need to deal with it, but if nobody identifies with your brand, well, you have a problem.
Right.
But if you're not too stupid, some people should be able to identify with the brand, and so the leads that will come to you because they identify with your brand, they will be more qualified, etc. So these are the kind of prospects you want to have conversation with.
I not only agree, and I would say I would go even further than that. I would bring it back to understanding your market and understanding your client. This part of branding emerges from the fact that you understand the problem that you're solving, for me. So once you understand the problem that you're solving, right, then you know what clients you should onboard and what clients you shouldn't onboard, right? And the fact that you're solving that problem in a certain way that's unique to you, right, creates a brand that's fueled by your personal values or your values as a founding team.
And so that's interesting, because back to where we started, about the logo and the name, in a way, it doesn't really matter again, because you don't, you might disagree, but, I think that you don't convey much with just a logo and a name. You convey, part of the message, but this is not people understand the value that you have. And branding, like I've seen this stat from Ipsos for Google, and they said that the first, in the B2B tech industry, the first purchase driver was good reputation for the average IT buyer. So it shows you, so before, and way before price. So the first thing you have to keep in mind is that as a brand, in this B2B tech industry, but I think it's probably the same in maybe even more so in other domains. But having a good brand and a good reputation as a brand is a huge business driver.
Right. Yeah.
So it needs to be, the brand is a way to convey your values, a way to show that you understand the problems that your customers have, and yeah, so that's the way to put it. But if you're a startup, just start very humbly in the first place. Just don't spend time on your logo, on your name. Start creating content, whatever that means.
Yeah.
Written.
Do it now.
Audio, video,
right
yeah.
now.
Just do it now. Try and you will see. You will find it will change over time, probably, just like what we're doing now.
Like this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah. So this is how you can find your voice and find the brand values that you have, and yeah, and that's it.
That's awesome, man.
But then you just to
yeah.
Don't. Again to the conversations that I have very often about branding, meaning, logo plus name plus advertising. Just don't do that. It doesn't work. If you're a startup, just there's the right time there's the right time to do that, and it's after you find your product market fit. If you want to do that, you can try, but before that, just don't spend too much time on the logo and the name, and just
to double down on that, because you don't know. Right, because you haven't found your product market fit, so you're not even sure what your brand's going to be, or what your company's going to be. You're going to change your mind. The probability of you finding the thing that you stick with, right, is almost zero. The probability it's much more likely that the market will tell you that they want something different, and you would be a fool not to capitalize on that. So you're most likely going to change everything anyway. So don't spend too much time. All right, before we wrap this up, I'd like to talk for just a little bit about this thing we did this afternoon, just before recording this. We did a brown bag whiteboard session.
Yeah.
That was fun, right? Did you have fun?
Yeah, really fun. First one.
To
be very frank, so we're trying something, and we're going to do it again.
Yeah, definitely.
Because it was, we love to do it, and it was
so just for people who missed the last episode, so what it is, people invite us, they buy us lunch, and they get an hour of our time, and we help them with whatever they need help with in terms of marketing, growth, or market strategy. Yeah. Right? And
so the idea is, to bring value to somebody who not needs help. It's not about helping. It's just about, we love doing this, and there's people who have the right mindset.
Exactly.
Who are ready to invest, like, $20, $30 in a few sandwiches.
Yeah, sandwich cup of coffee.
It's just so 1 hour, very constrained format. We don't know each other. We just get in the room and talk about their business, and throwing in ideas about what to do, what not to do.
Yeah, mix it up.
How to make money, and how to find growth and traction. So really fun.
And I learned a lot with this one. Like, we talked about new ways to generate revenue, to increase average spend for customers, and it was a lot of fun. Yeah.
And by the way, great way to, in a way, it was about branding as well.
Yeah, it was.
Whereas it is not, it is some sort of a sustainability company. So this branding aspect, you can apply that to a traditional business. But also to even NGOs, etc. So just to circle back on that. All right, great, man. Let's wrap this up. See you guys soon. Stay tuned for the next brown bag session. And if you ever want to talk to us personally, shoot us an email at hello@FrenchTechPodcast.com. Talk soon, guys. Bye, guys.